The secret chamber inside the Great Pyramid hashtag thumbnail text hidden for 4,500 years hashtag video opening. What if the Great Pyramid still contains a chamber that no human being has entered for thousands of years? A space sealed inside millions of tons of stone. A hidden structure with no visible entrance, no known passage, and no explanation. For centuries, explorers believed that the main chambers of the Great Pyramid had already been discovered. But modern technology has revealed something astonishing. Deep inside the pyramid, above the magnificent Grand Gallery, scientists detected a massive empty space. It is at least 30 meters long. That makes it almost as long as a passenger airplane. But no one knows exactly what it is. Is it simply an architectural feature designed to protect the pyramid? Is it an abandoned corridor? Is it a second Grand Gallery? Or could it be a sealed chamber containing objects that have remained untouched since the age of Pharaoh Khufu? Tonight, we enter one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of the modern world. The secret space hidden inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Hashtag Part 1. The last surviving wonder on the Giza Plateau, just outside modern Cairo, stands one of the most extraordinary structures ever created by human beings. The Great Pyramid of Giza. It was built approximately 4,500 years ago, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, who was also known by the Greek name Cheops. When it was completed, the pyramid rose to a height of approximately 146 meters. For thousands of years, it was the tallest human-made structure on Earth. Even today, after losing part of its smooth outer casing and its original summit, it continues to dominate the desert landscape. The Great Pyramid was constructed from an estimated 2 million or more stone blocks. Some blocks weigh several tons. Others, especially those used in the interior chambers, are far heavier. The precision of the monument continues to amaze engineers. Its sides are aligned remarkably closely with the 4 cardinal directions. Its base is almost perfectly level. Its enormous weight is distributed across the plateau with extraordinary accuracy. For many historians, the pyramid was primarily a royal tomb built for Pharaoh Khufu. But the monument has always inspired questions. Why was such a gigantic structure needed for a burial? How did ancient builders move and position so many blocks? How were the internal passages planned? And could the pyramid contain chambers that have never been reached? The Great Pyramid is not a solid mountain of stone. Inside it is a complicated system of corridors, shafts, and chambers. Yet only a very small portion of the entire structure is accessible. Most of the pyramid remains an enormous mass of limestone. That means there could still be unknown spaces hidden between the known rooms. And in 2017, scientists announced evidence that one of those spaces may truly exist. Hashtag Part 2. The known chambers. To understand the mystery, we first need to enter the known interior of the pyramid. The original entrance is located on the northern side. From there, a descending passage travels deep into the monument and continues below ground level. This passage leads toward an unfinished underground chamber carved into the bedrock beneath the pyramid. The purpose of this chamber remains uncertain. It may have been part of an earlier construction plan that was later abandoned. Another passage rises upward through the pyramid. This is known as the ascending passage. It eventually divides, leading toward 2 of the most famous rooms inside the monument. The first is traditionally called the Queen's Chamber. Despite the name, there is no strong evidence that a queen was ever buried there. The chamber may have served a symbolic, religious, or architectural purpose. Above it lies one of the most impressive spaces in all ancient architecture, the Grand Gallery. The Grand Gallery is a long, steeply rising corridor with a high, corbelled ceiling. It stretches for more than 40 meters and rises toward the upper interior of the pyramid. Walking through it is like entering a stone cathedral hidden inside a mountain. At the top of the Grand Gallery is a narrow passage leading to the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber is constructed from massive granite blocks transported from Aswan, hundreds of kilometers to the south. Inside the chamber is a large granite sarcophagus. No mummy was found there. No royal treasure remained. The chamber may have been robbed in ancient times, possibly long before the modern era. Above the King's Chamber are several smaller spaces often called relieving chambers. These chambers help distribute the enormous weight of the stone above the King's Chamber. Until recently, these known spaces formed the basic map of the pyramid's interior. Archaeologists knew that small cavities might still exist, but few expected the discovery of an enormous void comparable in size to the Grand Gallery. Hashtag Part 3. Seeing through stone. The Great Pyramid cannot simply be drilled open wherever researchers wish. Drilling could damage the monument. It could destroy evidence. It could weaken structures that have survived for thousands of years. Scientists therefore needed a method that could look through the stone without harming it. The solution came from outer space. Every second, high-energy particles from space strike the Earth's atmosphere. These cosmic rays produce smaller particles known as muons. Muons constantly pass through our bodies, buildings, mountains, and even pyramids. They are invisible and harmless in the quantities used for research. Because muons can travel through thick materials, scientists can use them to study the interior of large structures. The basic idea is similar to an X-ray. Dense stone absorbs or slows many of the particles. An empty space allows more particles to pass through. By placing special detectors inside and around a structure, researchers can measure the number and direction of the muons. If more muons arrive from a particular direction than expected, it may indicate the presence of a hidden cavity. This technique is known as muon radiography or muography. It has been used to study volcanoes, damaged nuclear reactors, and other structures that cannot easily be opened. In 2015, an international research project called ScanPyramids began examining several Egyptian pyramids. The team used different non-destructive technologies, including thermal imaging and muon detection. Their goal was not to prove stories about aliens, lost civilizations, or hidden treasure. Their goal was scientific. They wanted to understand how the pyramids were constructed and determine whether unknown spaces existed inside them. The Great Pyramid became the project's most important target. Detectors were placed in the Queen's chamber. Other detectors observed the pyramid from outside. The researchers expected to identify the known passages and chambers. This would prove that the method was working correctly. But when the data was analyzed, something unexpected appeared. Above the Grand Gallery was a large region through which more muons were passing than solid stone should have allowed. The instruments were detecting empty space. Hashtag Part 4. The Big Void. The mysterious structure was given a simple name: the ScanPyramids Big Void. It is located above the Grand Gallery, somewhere within the central mass of the pyramid. Researchers concluded that it has a minimum length of approximately 30 meters. Its exact shape is not yet known. It may be one long chamber. It may be a sloping corridor. It could be horizontal. It could rise at an angle similar to the Grand Gallery. It could even consist of several smaller spaces positioned close together. The muon data revealed the existence of a significant void, but it did not provide a clear photograph of the interior. Imagine seeing the shadow of a locked room through a wall. You can tell that a space exists. You may estimate its size and location, but you cannot see what is inside it. That is the situation facing researchers. The discovery was not based on only one detector. Several types of muon detectors were used. The results were repeated and confirmed. This made it extremely difficult to dismiss the void as an error or random anomaly. Something is there. The great mystery is what that something might be. The void appears to have a cross-section that may be comparable to the Grand Gallery. If that interpretation is correct, the hidden space could be large enough for people to walk through. But there is no known entrance. No visible corridor leads into it. No ancient text clearly describes it. And no explorer has ever entered it. For approximately 4,500 years, it may have remained completely sealed. Hashtag Part 5. Theory 1. A construction space. The most cautious explanation is that the Big Void was created for architectural reasons. The Great Pyramid places an almost unimaginable amount of weight on its interior chambers. The ancient builders needed to control how that weight was distributed. We already know that they used empty spaces above the king's chamber. These relieving chambers reduce pressure and help protect the room below. Could the Big Void have served a similar purpose? It lies above the Grand Gallery. Perhaps it was designed to reduce the weight pressing down on the gallery's ceiling. The Grand Gallery is tall, narrow, and structurally unusual. A large empty space above it might have helped redirect forces toward the stronger outer sections of the pyramid. Some engineers believe this is a reasonable possibility, but questions remain. If the void was only intended to reduce pressure, why does it appear to be so large? Why might it extend for at least 30 meters? And why would the builders create a space that may resemble another gallery? The ancient Egyptians were highly skilled engineers. They rarely wasted labor inside a monument of this scale. Every block had to be cut, transported, lifted, and positioned. Creating a huge empty space would require careful planning. Even if the void had a structural function, it may also have served another purpose. Hashtag Part 6. Theory 2. A second grand gallery. One of the most exciting possibilities is that the Big Void is another major corridor. Perhaps it is a second grand gallery hidden above the known one. The known grand gallery may have played several roles during construction. Some researchers believe it could have been connected to a system used to move heavy granite blocks upward. Others believe it had an important ceremonial or symbolic function. If another gallery exists above it, the internal design of the pyramid may be far more complex than previously understood. The hidden gallery could have been part of an abandoned route to another chamber. Perhaps the builders changed the plan during construction. The original passage may have been sealed and replaced with the route leading to the king's chamber. Ancient monuments often contain evidence of changing plans. A ruler could alter the design. Engineers could encounter structural difficulties. Religious ideas could change. A chamber originally intended for burial might be abandoned before completion. If the Big Void belongs to an earlier construction phase, it could reveal how the pyramid's design developed over time. Its walls might contain markings left by workers. There might be painted lines, measurements, or construction symbols. Even an apparently empty corridor could transform our understanding of how the Great Pyramid was built. Hashtag Part 7. Theory 3. A hidden burial chamber. The theory that captures the public imagination is the possibility of a hidden burial chamber. What if the room known as the King's Chamber was never the true burial place of Khufu? What if it was a decoy? Ancient tomb builders understood the threat of robbery. Royal tombs contained valuable objects. Gold, furniture, ritual equipment, jewelry, and sacred items could attract thieves. Later Egyptian tombs sometimes used blocked corridors, false doors, and concealed chambers to protect royal burials. Could the Great Pyramid contain a similar security system? Perhaps the visible chambers were intended to mislead intruders. The real burial chamber may have been placed higher inside the pyramid, completely sealed after the funeral. If the Big Void contains such a chamber, it could hold the remains of Pharaoh Khufu. It might contain objects bearing his name. It could preserve royal equipment from the 4th dynasty. The discovery of an untouched royal burial from the age of the Great Pyramid would be one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in history. But we must be careful. The muon scans prove that a large void exists. They do not prove that it is a burial chamber. No evidence currently confirms that treasure, a sarcophagus, or a mummy is inside it. The idea remains a theory. Still, the pyramid's mysteries make the possibility difficult to ignore. Khufu's body has never been conclusively identified. His final burial equipment has never been recovered. And the known king's chamber was found almost completely empty. Was it emptied by robbers? Or was the true burial place somewhere else? Hashtag Part 8. Theory 4. A symbolic chamber. The Great Pyramid was not merely a giant stone container. To the ancient Egyptians, death was a journey. The king was expected to rise into the sky, join the gods, and continue to exist in another form. The pyramid itself may have represented rays of sunlight descending from the heavens. Its chambers and shafts may have carried deep religious meaning. Some narrow shafts inside the pyramid point toward regions of the sky that were important in ancient Egyptian belief. The king's spirit may have been symbolically connected to particular stars or deities. Could the Big Void have served a spiritual purpose? Perhaps it was a symbolic pathway for the soul of Khufu. Perhaps it represented a hidden region of the afterlife. Maybe it was intended to remain empty because the emptiness itself had religious meaning. To modern people, an empty chamber may appear useless. But ancient sacred architecture often used darkness, silence, enclosure, and hidden space as symbols. A chamber did not need to contain treasure to be important. Its position inside the monument may have been more significant than any object placed within it. Unfortunately, very little written information survives from Khufu's reign explaining the pyramid's internal symbolism. The famous pyramid texts were recorded in later pyramids, generations after Khufu. They may preserve older beliefs, but we cannot automatically apply every later text to the Great Pyramid. The hidden void may therefore represent a religious idea that has been lost for more than 4 millennia. Hashtag Part 9. Theory 5. A storage or construction corridor. Another possibility is less mysterious but still fascinating. The Big Void may have been a working space used during construction. Building the Great Pyramid required an enormous organization of labor, tools, and materials. Internal corridors may have been used to move blocks, ropes, or counterweights. Temporary spaces could have helped workers position the massive granite beams above the king's chamber. After construction, these spaces may have been sealed and forgotten. Some theories suggest that the Grand Gallery itself was involved in lifting heavy stones. If so, the Big Void might have been connected to the same system. It could have held equipment. It might have allowed workers to control ropes or wooden structures. It may have served as a temporary passage between different levels. Once the major blocks were in place, the builders could have closed the entrance. This theory could explain why the void is large but inaccessible. However, wood, rope, and other organic materials usually decay over time. Even if the chamber once contained construction equipment, little may remain today. But traces could still survive. Holes in the walls, fragments of wood, marks on the floor, or ancient graffiti could provide priceless evidence. A single worker's inscription could reveal the name of a construction team. A painted measurement could show how the builders planned the interior. An empty chamber can still contain history. Hashtag Part 10. Could it contain treasure? Whenever a hidden chamber is discovered in Egypt, people immediately imagine gold. Golden masks, royal jewelry, statues, secret scrolls, lost technology. The reality of archaeology is usually more complicated. Many Egyptian tombs were robbed in ancient times. Gold and valuable materials were removed. Objects were broken, moved, or reused. But a completely sealed chamber inside the Great Pyramid would be different. If no passage ever connected it to the outside after construction, ancient robbers may never have reached it. In that case, objects could remain in their original positions. Yet there is another possibility. The void may never have contained anything. It could be purely structural. It could be unfinished. It could be filled with rough stone surfaces rather than decorated walls. The importance of the chamber does not depend on gold. Even dust could be valuable. Dust may contain plant fibers, wood particles, fragments of rope, or other materials from the construction period. Tiny samples could provide information about the workers, the environment, and the age of different construction stages. The greatest treasure may not be a golden object. It may be knowledge. Hashtag Part 11. Why not open it? A natural question arises. If scientists know where the void is, why do they not simply drill a hole and insert a camera? The answer is preservation. The Great Pyramid is one of the most important monuments on Earth. Any physical intervention must be carefully considered. Drilling in the wrong location could damage ancient stonework. It could create cracks. It could disturb a structure that has remained stable for thousands of years. Researchers must also know the exact position and orientation of the void. A small error could cause a drill to miss the chamber or enter through an important architectural feature. There are ethical questions as well. Who has the authority to enter the space? How should any objects be protected? How can contamination be prevented? A chamber sealed for thousands of years may contain a unique environment. Modern air, moisture, and bacteria could damage fragile materials. Before opening such a space, scientists would need a detailed plan. They might use improved muon detectors to create a more precise image. Other non-invasive technologies could help determine the chamber's shape. A very small robotic camera might eventually be inserted through a carefully selected location. But every step must balance discovery with preservation. The mystery has survived for 45 centuries. Researchers do not want to destroy it in a moment of impatience. Hashtag Part 12. The small northern corridor, the Big Void, is not the only recent mystery inside the Great Pyramid. ScanPyramids researchers also detected another hidden structure near the northern face of the pyramid. This space was much smaller than the Big Void. It appeared to be a corridor located behind the large chevron-shaped stones above the original entrance. Years later, researchers were able to examine this corridor with a small camera. The space was approximately 9 meters long and had a triangular or gabled ceiling. It was empty, but its discovery was extremely important. It demonstrated that the scanning technology could identify real hidden spaces. The corridor may have been designed to reduce pressure above the entrance. It could also be connected to another unknown feature. The successful investigation of the northern corridor gives researchers hope that the Big Void may eventually be examined as well. But the Big Void is deeper inside the pyramid and much more difficult to reach. The corridor near the entrance was relatively close to the outer surface. The Big Void is surrounded by far more stone. Reaching it safely will be a greater challenge. ## Part 13. The people who built the pyramid. The mystery of the hidden void also reminds us of the people behind the monument. For centuries, popular stories claim that the pyramids were built by enormous armies of slaves. Modern archaeological evidence presents a more complex picture. Skilled workers, craftsmen, stonecutters, transport teams, and seasonal laborers all participated in the project. Nearby settlements contained bakeries, workshops, storage facilities, and living quarters. The workers were organized into teams. Some groups left names and markings inside hidden areas of the pyramid. These inscriptions are among the most direct pieces of evidence connecting the Great Pyramid to Khufu. The builders were not primitive. They understood stone, weight, geometry, and organization. They worked without modern engines, steel cranes, or computer models. Yet they created a structure that has survived for thousands of years. The Big Void may be another example of their engineering intelligence. Whatever its purpose, it was part of a carefully planned system. It was not an accidental hole. Someone designed it. Workers constructed it. Supervisors knew its position. And then, at some point, knowledge of it disappeared. No surviving map clearly shows it. No known document explains it. The builders carried their secret into history. Part 14. Legends and Extreme Theories. The Great Pyramid has always attracted unusual theories. Some people claim that it was built by visitors from another world. Others believe it was a power station, an ancient machine, or a library preserving knowledge from a lost civilization. The discovery of a hidden void gives new life to these stories. Could the chamber contain advanced technology? Could it hold records from Atlantis? Could it prove that the pyramid is much older than historians believe? There is currently no reliable archaeological evidence supporting these claims. The known evidence connects the Great Pyramid to ancient Egypt, the 4th dynasty, and Pharaoh Khufu. The building methods were extraordinary, but extraordinary human achievement does not require extraterrestrial intervention. Still, legends reveal something important. People find it difficult to accept that such a magnificent structure could still contain unanswered questions. We want the pyramid to reveal a final secret. We want one chamber to change everything we know. The real mystery, however, may be more fascinating than fantasy. Ancient human beings planned and built a structure so sophisticated that modern scientists are still discovering its hidden spaces using particles from outer space. That fact alone is astonishing. ## Part 15. What could happen next? Future technology may allow scientists to create a much clearer image of the Big Void. More sensitive muon detectors could determine whether the space is horizontal or sloping. They could reveal whether it is one chamber or several connected spaces. Improved measurements might identify a possible entrance. Robotic systems may eventually become small enough to enter through a tiny opening without damaging the monument. A flexible camera could show the walls, floor, and ceiling. A miniature robot might collect images and environmental measurements. If the chamber contains inscriptions, researchers may be able to read them without physically entering. If objects are present, specialists will need to decide how to preserve them. And if the space is completely empty, that result will still matter. Its shape and construction could reveal new information about the engineering of the pyramid. Each answer will create new questions. Why was the space placed in that exact location? How was it built? When was it sealed? Was it part of the original plan? Does it connect to any other unknown chamber? The Great Pyramid may still possess an entire internal architecture that we have not yet understood. ## Part 16. A room outside human memory. Imagine the final moments of construction. The chamber or corridor is complete. Workers leave the space for the last time. Stone blocks are moved into position. The entrance disappears behind tons of limestone. The outside world changes. Khufu dies. Dynasties rise and fall. Egypt is invaded and transformed. Languages disappear. Religions change. Empires collapse. Cities grow around the ancient plateau. Travelers arrive from distant lands to look at the pyramid. Explorers crawl through its known passages. Scientists measure every visible chamber. Millions of people stand beneath its shadow. And all the while, the hidden space remains silent. No torch enters. No human voice echoes from its walls. No foot touches its floor. For 4,500 years, it exists outside human memory. Then particles born high in the atmosphere pass through the pyramid. Electronic detectors record them. Patterns appear on computer screens. And suddenly, a forgotten space becomes visible again. Not through breaking stone. Not through ancient maps. But through cosmic rays. It is a meeting of the ancient and modern worlds. The greatest monument of the past examined with the physics of the universe. Conclusion: the ScanPyramids Big Void is real. It is large. It lies deep inside the Great Pyramid. But its purpose remains unknown. It may be a structural space protecting the Grand Gallery. It may be an abandoned construction corridor. It may be a second gallery. It may have served a ceremonial or religious function. Or, in the most dramatic possibility, it could lead to a sealed chamber that no human being has entered since the age of Pharaoh Khufu. Until scientists can examine it more closely, the answer remains hidden behind millions of tons of stone. Perhaps the chamber is empty. Perhaps it contains only construction marks and dust. Or perhaps something extraordinary is waiting in the darkness. The Great Pyramid has stood for approximately 4,500 years. It has survived earthquakes, storms, tomb robbers, wars, and the rise and fall of civilizations. We once believed that its interior had been fully explored. Now we know that this may not be true. The greatest mystery of the Great Pyramid may not be how it was built. It may be what is still hidden inside it. What do you believe the Big Void was created for? A structural chamber? A secret passage? Or the true burial place of Pharaoh Khufu? Share your theory in the comments. And subscribe to Archaeology Ancient Mysteries as we continue exploring the secrets, lost knowledge, and unexplained wonders of the ancient world. Because sometimes, history does not disappear. It waits silently in the darkness to be discovered.